What makes someone a good person? Is it our actions or our motivations? What happens when someone downtrodden is suddenly given immense power? Can you really trust a priest called Father Brah? And should Greg Serrano be a search term on porn sites? These are some of the questions my guests and I will try to answer as we discuss the music and mental health themes in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend Season 1, Episode 5, titled Josh and I Are Good People. That's right, we're discussing father-daughter love, physical and emotional infidelity, immigration, and office politics. I'm Aurora Brown, and this is Intersectional Psychology. Aurora Brown and Intersectional Psychology acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout South Africa and their connections to land, water, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Indigenous people listening today. I'm a good person, and if you ask why, I'll spit my good right into your eye. Everywhere I go, I spread such bliss, and if you don't think so, you can kiss my ass, which is made of good. Welcome back to We're Also Broken Inside on the Intersectional Psychology Podcast. I'm Snailina Carpenter. Today, I am delighted to be joined by two very special guests, two friends and student clinical psychologists, Snailivia Rodrigo and Jasnail Monet. Snailivia, also known as Jordynne Roux, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi. And Jasnail, also known as Zabibu Ishimwe, welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us here.
Yay. So, Jordan, let's start with you. What is your relationship with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
This is all new to me. So I did watch episode 1 to 5, and I will say I love it. And I think it's because I crave Glee, and this is the closest thing that I'm going to get to Glee. um, I found it very funny, but I can also clearly see with some psychological concepts are shown. Um, and I really like the main character. I find her quite relatable in a way.
Yeah, she's very charming, and as someone on a previous episode said, kind of seductive in a way. Even though you can
Yeah.
see she has some issues, you're won over by her. Yeah. Sabibu, what is your relationship? Yeah.
So yeah, I recently just found out that this was a show. But yeah, I watched episode 5 and then read about episode 1 to 4. But I also just really love it and cannot believe that it aired not so many years ago, but a while ago, and I missed it. But I really love the musical part of it. Um, I'm struggling to understand Rebecca, but yeah, she is quite a character. But um, yeah, she is intriguing though, from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think it's quite uncommon to find such a slow burn show where you really the characters kind of unfold over a very long period of time and you get to
Mm.
unpack all of these layers. So Crazy Ex-Girlfriend Season 1, Episode 5, titled Josh and I Are Good People, was written by Michael Hitchcock and directed by Alex Hardcastle. Okay. So Greg accuses Rebecca and Josh of being terrible people, so Rebecca frantically tries to prove him wrong. She impulsively spends money on empty gestures and then agrees to help Daryl win custody of his daughter Madison. Meanwhile, Josh goes to confession and admits to being attracted to Rebecca. He plays basketball with his priest and friend Father Brah, who tells him that it's his actions that count, not his thoughts or feelings. Daryl and Rebecca put Paula in charge of the office. She begins to rule with an iron fist, getting revenge on everyone who mistreated her, but also increasing productivity. Rebecca has a moment of insight when Daryl's wife Stacy challenges her. Rebecca identifies that the lack of any parental validation has caused her to always seek outside validation from others. She has made Greg her new moral arbiter in West Covina. Does Rebecca explore that insight? No, because Josh confesses to her that he is very, very attracted to her, but is in love with Valencia.
Yeah.
Listen.
Where would you guys like to start? What jumped out to you about this episode when you were thinking about discussing the mental health themes of it?
Okay, I'll go. It's clear that Rebecca has a need for external validation. Obviously, we saw some flashbacks of her childhood and her mom saying some heavy things to a child and how that plays in her role today. But this episode in particular, I thought of the theme is doing good doing good deeds for the wrong reason still a good deed. And it made me think like how often people go about doing good things with their own for their own morality. um so I find it quite interesting. It really jumps out in this episode how much she relies on other people's opinions to validate her own, which I find really sad. And they really do spread it out with humor and dramatizing things instead of focusing heavily on the theme. So I found it quite interesting the way they directed that as well.
Yeah.
Quite similar to Jordynne, I was very intrigued by. I think you said it. She made Greg her moral arbiter, and uh, yeah, it was really quite strange with her obsession of validating herself through him, and just I had to go back and obviously look at what happened in episode 1 to 4, and I think I discovered, or it said in the notes that she had I think slept with someone that she had just met at the party, and you'd think should feel guilty or like some sort of shame, but yeah, she tends to like, I don't know, take that I don't know, that experience and that experience to it is distorted, and she doesn't really understand what Greg is really upset about. Um, so yeah, I found that so interesting. That whole like the shame and the guilt, and like what how her self worth is sort of projected through that, and yeah, it made me curious about where all of that sort of stems from. And I think in episode 5, she does hint at it a couple of times when you see like flashbacks from her as a child. Um, so yeah, it was very very interesting.
Yeah, that was a very interesting scene where she kind of confronts Greg in the stockroom, and he's like, "Well, if you like, nothing can make you unhave sex with the guy that you took home on our dates." And she's like, "Oh, so it's about sex?" And obviously, it's not about sex; it's about the betrayal. Um, and and then he says something about temporary custody, and she's like, "Oh, so now I have to make the custody temporary." Like, you're right, Zabibu. She doesn't understand what the real wound is or the rupture that she's created in that relationship. Why do you think she? Why do you think she has made Greg her moral arbiter? Why do you think she cares so much about um, his opinion of her? I mean, we've seen in the past episodes she doesn't really want to date him. Um, she doesn't really hold him in high esteem. So why does his opinion matter so much to her?
I have 2 points in my mind. I hope I can get to them. But I think the first is that she doesn't feel guilty. I think that's because guilt usually produces some sort of correction. Like internally, you'd be like, okay, I want to make amends. Whereas shame, you sort of withdraw. I think we've spoken about this so many times during class, how shame can sometimes harbor some sort of angle. Like there's another side to it. And I think, yeah, with her shame, it causes her to sort of, it shows a sense of like withdrawal to the situation. And then now it's misplaced in like, um, I don't know, external validation because there's an internal issue that she's not really um, coming to terms with. And I think that internal issue, what looks like to me is maybe she has some sort of like anxious attachment issue. I'm not wanting to diagnose it or anything, but like, yeah, it seems like the way that she, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's in the previous episodes or, but she does mention something about her dad and how he left when she was younger. Um, but yeah, I think there's a self esteem problem as well. Um, and then, yeah, the way that she perceives herself is from others' perspective instead of herself, which is I think can be quite problematic when
Absolutely. I think that contrast between guilt and shame that you drew is very interesting because if you look at how Greg called her and Josh both terrible, but they responded in very different ways. Like Rebecca immediately started feeling shame and started, um, acting quite frantically and just throwing money at the unhoused person, at buying coffee and donuts for everyone in the office, throwing or giving the person in her office who has a snake with fang cancer $1,000. She's just doing anything that she can to kind of um, to prove also to herself that she isn't a bad person. Because, I mean, Greg doesn't know about any of these things. So she can't deal with this, with that shame that you were talking about, Zabibu, that shame, that feeling of discomfort at being called a terrible person. And if you compare that to the way Josh reacted, he went to not exactly a therapist, but his priest, someone whose counsel he respects. He went to talk about it with someone who, could provide feedback and advice. Yeah. And so it seems like Josh did respond with guilt, whereas Rebecca responded with shame. What about you, Jordynne? What do you think why Greg's opinion matters so much to Rebecca?
So I thought about this. I actually don't think it's Greg himself. I think the comment that he made, which was that she's not a good person, that in itself made him the judge, even though that wasn't his intention in the first place. And so that gave him a power, not that he wanted, but to Rebecca, he was on a pedestal. Um, he had the higher ground because his opinion was that she was not a good person. And if his opinion was that she's not a good person, everyone else around her might have the same opinion. And then I look at the flashbacks of her mom and the way she blamed Rebecca for her dad leaving. I feel like throughout her lifetime, she values opinions of others and places value on herself in turn. And that just shows throughout this episode. So yeah, I don't think it's actually Greg himself. I think it's the comment and her lack of self-worth. And I think if Josh had to say it, or if Paula had to say it, it would have been the same result. If it's coming from anyone outside of herself, it must be true, you know? So that's the way I looked at it.
Just to add, because Jordan just reminded me about how her mother blamed her for father leaving, and that also in itself, it placed evaluation on her as a bad and terrible person. Um, and I'm just reminded when she first met, is it Josh? Josh.
Josh, yeah, in the camp.
When she first met him, and in New York, I think, and he said, "Oh no, the place that he is going back to is a good place." And I remember seeing like a video of her just like sort of lighting up, and um, yeah, it just shows that I think with her placing her value on what Greg says shows that yeah, Rebecca needs external proof of goodness because she has no internal standard of her own. And yeah, she tries to do all of these things, buying the coffee and like helping, is it Darren or Daryl? And all of those things to appease that shame, but you can never satisfy that because you placed your value on other people when it's meant to be sort of inward. So it makes it worse rather than better. So yeah.
Um,
I don't know who's pinging like that. Yeah. Is it okay? Do you need to go?
No, no, I couldn't. It's fine. I put it on mute
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think also we've seen over the 5 episodes some fear of abandonment when Josh first breaks up with her when they're at the summer camp when they're 16 years old. You know, she immediately like kind of spins out of control, and then it's come up a few times, like in the 3rd episode when she throws the house party. We see how she kind of imagines Josh leaving her the way that her father left her or abandoned her. And so I wonder if also um, it's just with Greg, even though she doesn't want a romantic relationship with him, like they have built a connection, they do have a relationship. And I think maybe she, she fears that rupture and fears the loss of that connection if he thinks that she's a terrible person. And she seems to feel like it's the worst. I don't know, like the world is going to end if she doesn't fix this immediately. It's not something that, and maybe also, so I was thinking maybe because in the previous episode when she and Greg go on the date, they have a little argument and then they resolve it very adult like. And that's almost what sets her off to go and hook up with a different guy on their date. And then when Greg confronts her, she says, "But I'm not an adult. I can't do that. I don't do what we just did." Like resolving things like adults. And maybe that also kind of made her place his opinion so high because he treats her like an adult. He is able to kind of resolve things like an adult, and so she sees that he is good at adulting, or that he's a kind of a good emotionally regulated moral person. Yeah, I don't know. I think, Zabibu, you mentioned, her low self-esteem. She says to Daryl's ex-wife, when she asks her what's wrong with you, she says, well, a low self-esteem, a lack of maternal affection, and genetic predisposition for anxiety and depression. So I think, she has this insight into what is going on with her, but she doesn't do anything with that. She doesn't process that insight. She doesn't, follow that insight to kind of reflect on it, or to impact her life or to change her life in any way. And this is what happened in the previous episode as well, when they did have that argument and she says, I don't adult like this, I don't do this. She had that insight of not being mature, let's say, and not, being good at interpersonal relationships, but she didn't do anything with that. She just kind of ran away from it. And now Greg, so let's talk about, her self-esteem and her self-concept, her self-worth, and yeah, maybe some of the attachment things that could have contributed to that. I'm a Good Person was written by Rachel Bloom and Adam Schlesinger and performed by Rachel Bloom as Rebecca Bunch.
And when I say good, I really mean great. The best, hashtag humble and blessed. Newsflash, fuck what, I'm a good person. Do what I can for you all the time. That's how I am, cause I'm a good person. I always find time to be kind. Sorry, so busy. I'm a good, such a good, real good person. I'm a good person through and through. I'm a good, such a good, real good person. Let me hear you say it too.
The I'm a Good Person reprise was written by Rachel Bloom and Adam Schlesinger and expressed by Gina Gallego as Mrs. Hernandez.
I
Go
feel
ahead.
like she's extremely, how would I put it? She's very unaware for someone so self-aware. Like she seemingly knows herself, but she's unable to interpret how other people are feeling. For example, Josh in that, not Josh, Greg in that particular moment, specifically episode 4, and why I was upset in episode 5. So yeah, I feel like she's self-aware, but at the same time, while I was watching, I immediately, and I know we're not supposed to diagnose, but I thought BPD almost immediately, just because of her impulsivity and just, she was a lawyer, and she dropped everything to be a lawyer at a very, very small town. And I'll be honest with you, I forgot the question. What's the question? I'm so sorry.
Self-esteem.
Yes.
Sorry.
So we were talking about her self-esteem and her, some of the things that could lead to her feeling this, I don't know, some of the things that could contribute to her attachment issues.
Sorry.
But
my train of thought went all over.
But we can stay with what you were saying if you want to.
Okay.
So, we're not supposed to diagnose someone that we, haven't spent time with
Met.
ourselves.
Yeah.
But people come on this podcast and they have no qualms about diagnosing.
Okay.
The consensus seems to be BPD.
I will say, just in terms of her self-esteem, going back onto the original question, her mother obviously plays a huge role in the way she perceives herself. I say this because of obviously the flashbacks that we received. She obviously feels to blame for her father's leaving, but also when it came to her job, in the first episode, she's up for a promotion, and the first thought that she thought was, "Oh, my mom's going to be really happy about this." So I feel like or because she's going to quit, her mom's going to be really upset. So I think she places a lot of her self esteem based on what her mom thinks, and that's just how she grew up. Um, and I feel like the place that she's in now, episode 5, it's almost like it's the first time she's able to be herself without her mother's control in a way. And that's why maybe her actions seem very all over the place. She's trying to relearn certain things. So that's what I think.
Um, yeah, I think one thing that stood out to me was like her cognitive distortion of self. It was either she was a good person or trying to convince us that she was, or she was a terrible person. And I think earlier I said that perhaps she has this sort of, anxious attachment behavior um, in the way that she sort of grew up, because usually individuals, I think, who are anxiously attached tend to feel more insecure and um, question their self worth a lot. And yeah, with the two examples of just her mom blaming her for the father leaving and then the father, leaving, we can use those as an example. So I also said earlier that she has no sort of a internal locus of what is good. So she uses Greg as a moral arbiter. So that is her way of sort of appeasing all of that or filling that void, because she has no sort of compass of what that is. So yeah, with her self-esteem, yeah, uh, it's quite clear that she depends on others to sort of um, better her image, because she doesn't really have that. I don't think she had that growing up. We only saw a small bit of her life, and those that were in her life had sort of disappointed her. Even with Josh as well, they were dating for 1 month, but that sort of fell through. Um, but yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I think her mother has always been a very domineering personality in her life, or domineering figure. And I think her mother, I don't think she, like Rebecca, was able to develop her own sense of identity or her own moral compass, because her mother was always telling her what she was, who she was, what was right, what was wrong, what values to have. And yeah, I think you're both right. Now that her mother isn't around, or that she's not in touch with her mother as frequently, she is unable to kind of navigate those decisions on her own, and so she has to find something. And maybe because Greg's voice, like Jordynne said, maybe because he placed that value judgment on her and Josh, that you're terrible. It's very critical, very much like her mother. And so maybe she saw a little bit of her mother in Greg. Um, so I mean, like in object relations theory, um, it's so that's like part of the school of psychoanalysis for the listeners, and it talks about like the stages of ego development, and it basically holds that the relationship between um, the the infant and the mother is what primarily determines like the formation of the personality in adult life, and that attachment is the foundation of the development of the self. And it didn't feel like that attachment with Rebecca's mother was safe. And so it's understandable then that she would maybe have an anxious or an avoidant attachment style. And attachment theory is based on like object relations theory. Let's talk about I love my daughter, but not in a creepy way. Let's talk about Daryl. This is the yeah, Daryl plays a much larger role in this episode than in previous episodes. And he's another character that often that is kind of, I don't know, complicated, because he seems very sweet and endearing. In this episode, he has his first song, I Love My Daughter, but not in a creepy way, which was written by Rachel Bloom, Adam Schlesinger, and Jack Dolgen, and performed by Pete Gardner as Daryl Whitefeather.
Princess of my world, I never knew a beauty like this before. So clever and cute, an angel with an attitude. I want her all mine all of the time. I know songs like this can come on weird, but there's nothing weird about helping daddy trim his beard. Yeah, let's do that.
Tell me a little bit about this song. As two daughters of fathers.
Yeah, it made me uncomfortable when it wasn't supposed to make me uncomfortable. I wouldn't have thought anything weird about it if they didn't mention it. I would have just thought, okay, this is a father who loves his daughter, but then the little, like, yeah, comments on the side, then I would be like, yeah, that is weird, okay. And then I think after the song, I think they were in Greg's, like, where he works, and he was doing her hair, and like I think at the end he was just like, yeah, because she has hair flies, and I'm like, yeah, I remember that song that you sang, that was weird. Now I'm looking at everything you're doing as weird. But yeah, I nothing of that initially was weird until the song popped up, and like um then it made it weird. But I think I read between the lines and was like, they trying to maybe push an idea. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what the culture says about father and daughter relationships, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think somehow they were trying to talk about something which I don't think I was really sort of getting, if I'm being honest. But yeah.
I thought it was weird as well. Because he could have stopped at "I love my daughter." Full stop. Not in a creepy way was added to make it creepy. That was so weird for me personally. I thought that he does seem like a really good dad, and he seems like he really cares for his daughter. Just in the oncoming scenes, especially wanting custody and seeing that she is left by herself. But the song, it kind of blurs the line between father-daughter relationship and then what's too close as a father-daughter in a relationship. And then I thought to myself, is that just me projecting my uncomfortableness with being close to my dad, which I'm not. So maybe that's why. This might be normal in other cultures. I mean, or but I thought the song was creative, but weird. Very, very weird. Yeah.
I think the song is supposed to be like a parody or a satire of, I think in like country music, especially, which the song is a country song. I think there are many songs about like fathers loving their daughters and being like super overprotective and talking about, giving them away at their weddings and all of that. And I think it's supposed to be like a parody of that and of how like weird those songs are and those fathers are, because okay, and not to like, yeah, I'm not American, so yeah, but like country music is typically, it's most predominant in like the southern states, and that is very like old school and conservative, and it seems like this daddy daughter vibe or idea is much more prominent there in those areas. And I think the song kind of pushed the envelope and said things that are a little bit weird, or a little bit like too close, but it's because it's making fun of this typical country song. But something, and I don't know if Jordynne, I don't know if you listen to Afrikaans music, but I found this interesting watching this song because it also reminds me a bit about the way some Afrikaans men talk about their daughters and the way that some male Afrikaans singers sing about their relationships with their daughters. I think there's a lot of overlap there between country music and Afrikaans music. Yeah. Do you listen to Afrikaans music? Do you think
No,
I'm onto
because
anything
I put it
there?
in the same category as country, and I didn't like country music either. Unfortunately, no shade, no Tisha, no shade. But I I don't subscribe,
Mm.
and but
I only
I'm
listen
open.
to I only listen to female country artists because I do
Okay,
find, I don't know, male country artists weird. Um, but
I
yeah,
like
it's
Dolly Parton. You know,
exactly who doesn't like
yeah,
Dolly?
yeah.
But
Full
yeah,
stop.
she's like in a whole separate category. My niece does have many, many toy horses, which she loves dearly. I don't know, were you too into horses when you were younger?
No, but I au pair, and the girls. I think maybe I was. Maybe I did think they were beautiful, and like I watched shows with them in. But yeah, the kids that I look after, the girls, they are equestrians and they are obsessed with horses. So horses are everywhere, and it's just a thing that I think really that we all sort of kind of, I don't know, like or like think is very whimsical and beautiful or something. So it does correlate to us kind of.
I love My Little Pony still today, so I
Yes, I remember.
I love horses. I know the theme song and everything.
Yeah, that's one of my niece's favorites.
Love it.
Just before we go on, I think thank you for the explanation because I remember seeing the cowboy boots and was like, was he always wearing cowboy boots? And then in my head, I was like, it does sound like a country sort of music. So when I was thinking it was weird, I'm like, but why are they showing it? There must be a reason why they are sort of showing it. And I think it's maybe to bring, you know, I think the viewer's attention to perhaps there's an issue of this or something like that. Because the show is comical and it does use a lot of satire and things like that. So it's maybe just to bring people's attention to it.
And I think that's also why many of these songs are archetypal almost, because she struggles to see people as complex human beings. And Jordynne, you also mentioned, or yeah, I don't know, one of you mentioned like she struggles to see things from other people's perspective and to have empathy for other people. Like she doesn't understand why Greg was angry with her. Um, and I think it's because she sees people, she puts them into these archetypes. She either idealizes them or completely devalues them. They're either all good or all bad. Um, which is also a trait of BPD.
She at the end of the episode where Josh is explaining that he found her attractive, but he's very much in love with his girlfriend and wants to be committed to her. She didn't hear any of that, and so she took the best thing out of that conversation as well and ran with it. So it's quite
Yeah,
telling.
her listening ended at attracted, attracted, attracted. So you mentioned Paula. Let's maybe talk then about Paula's work situation and her taking charge of the office. So we have like a bit of a situation there where two of the men are bullying her in the office, being kind of misogynistic. Um, and then she is placed in charge of them, even though they're lawyers and she's a paralegal. And then she goes on a complete power trip almost. You see it's almost, and the music starts and it's like Jaws, where she's kind of focusing in on this guy and approaching him. And talk to me about that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, so I'm just handing it over to you.
Been there.
Yes, she's absolutely capable of handling everything that she was entrusted with. Um, yeah, with the guys, yeah, I didn't like that they were calling her the B word. I think the one dude, I don't even know his name, the one from Canada. Yeah, he kept on saying the B word, which is so funny. Uh, Thinking about the fact that he's not really from there, but to decide to take on that like very, I don't know, um, what's ill masculine, toxic masculinity. It's very toxic. Yeah, to take on that role, um, so proudly knowing that you're hiding something like that, and once it's exposed, how weak you can become is really is crazy to see. But yeah, I didn't think anything weird about her stepping into her role. I was like, yeah, do it because these people didn't treat you so well. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's interesting because like the research shows that immigrants are usually the least likely to commit crimes, for example, in countries there, because they don't want to go back to where they to their country of origin, and especially if they are undocumented, then you know any kind of drawing any kind of attention to yourself risks then being deported or being um, yeah sent back to your country of origin, which if you're undocumented, you probably escaped because, or yeah, you escaped kind of persecution or fear or, you know, whatever conditions are happening there. And so it is interesting that he has the confidence to, you know, make enemies of everyone in the office. Um, or not everyone. Clearly, he has some friends. But I think that's also white privilege, maybe. I think if he had been a person of color, like Paula says to him when he says, "Oh, so you're not going to turn me into the federales?" And she's like, "Don't pretend you have the plight of an actual immigrant. Like you are not. being persecuted in this country, and no one is calling into question your nationality or your
Mm.
status.
That, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I found it very ironic. Yeah. You'd think that he would be more, laid like lie low or something, but yeah, he took a completely different take. But I also think it's so that he could sort of take, prying eyes off of him, or sort of mask himself in some sort of way. But again, then I think about, okay, it's maybe because he's a white male and he can really easily do that. Um, So yeah, and how quickly he also switched after Paula found out, and at the end when they're making fun of the other dude,
Jim,
the
yeah.
yeah,
Tim and
yeah,
Jim, very,
how quickly
very
and
Tweedledum.
such interesting names, Tim and Jim, very common. Okay, anyway, um, so yeah, and how quickly they switched up and they made fun of you know him. But anyway,
Hmm.
yeah, it's yeah.
Jordynne, what did you think about the whole workplace?
Um, I actually worked at a law firm back in the day in my youth, you know. And so I've actually seen the dynamic in a South African context with lawyers and paralegals. Paralegals are typically women, by the way, in South Africa specifically. Um, and they do just as much work as lawyers do. Basically, the paralegal's role is to offer assistance and taking on like administrative duties and um, filing everything away, applying to the court. They do that by themselves, sometimes taking on more responsibility than the lawyers themselves. And I find that um, law itself, being a lawyer is seen as one of the greatest achievements ever in the law field. Um, it really does take away the achievements of the the smaller man, you know. So paralegals are often looked over quite a bit. I've seen it myself, and I can feel Paula's frustration in the office being disrespected, even though she said she has. She did a 3-year course and she has over 15 years of experience. Nobody looks at that at all. They look at what degree she holds, or you know what her paycheck says at the end of the day. So I feel like when she was given this responsibility to, take on the duties of the office or delegate, not only was she capable of doing that, I think that the frustrations really did come out and come through, and sometimes when you feel like you can help, if you're given a position of power and you're holding a lot of emotional strain, it can come off ethically messy sometimes. um, for example, she does not like the snake lady. I think in the episode she calls her like passive aggressive and like kind of a weirdo. But she didn't even, I feel like the snake lady didn't do anything wrong, and so her frustrations were flying all over the office even though the job is getting done. So I think often emotions can sometimes make things ethically messy is what I said. So yeah, even though I really do like Paula and I think she would be great in a leadership role, I feel like it came on very fast, and that speed of placing a role on her uh, made her what's a good word?
Drunk with power.
Yeah, something like that. Um,
I mean, leading up to that moment where she gets all that power, like you can see the tension building up in her of like
yeah.
taking all of this frustration from people being treated
Yeah.
horribly and then other people not doing their jobs. And I know you are very sympathetic towards Karen. um, yeah, you can see all this tension building up, and I think then because once she gets that power, like she hasn't had a chance to kind of work out that tension and that frustration yet. So it all just like it's like when you are trying to open a tap a little bit and it's all like tight and you're like trying to turn the tap and then suddenly it just goes whoosh and everything just comes like powering out. Um, yeah,
Something like that. That's exactly how I would describe it. Yeah.
like Karen's menstrual cup.
Oh, oh, shame. She is a bit weird, eh? And she has a snake, and the snake is dying. So we have to
Shame,
feel
bless her.
bad.
Long
Shame.
John Slither. Um, So before we move on to the Fanon test, can we talk a little bit about Josh and his, um, yeah, what do you guys think about Josh as a character, and then about him, his his storyline in this episode?
I think it pays well when we put Rebecca's, how it starts off, both of them being told by Greg that they are terrible people. And then just the way that Rebecca goes about it versus the way that Josh goes about it. He goes and um, sort of seeks counsel, and tries to take that advice and then look inwards versus Rebecca's is more outwards with her approach. And although, yes, going to, is it Father Brah? Yeah, it's in, yeah, we can kind of, yeah, it's not much, but like he did sort of help him in a very, like, really nice way and told him, hey, okay, he did counsel him really well. And he managed to come to an awareness of what he was feeling or what he was going through. Versus Rebecca, never. I mean, towards the end, maybe slightly, but it seems sort of surface level compared to his. He comes to terms. Okay, I do like Rebecca, but he can still hold the fact that he does still love Valencia. When I think about Rebecca as a male Josh version, it could have just been, I'm gonna leave Valencia and I might go and you know just it's the same thing as like she like the it's the inverse of what she done. Like she went and slept with someone she just met at the party, instead of acknowledging, okay, this guy's attractive, cool. I also have a thing with Greg, whereas Josh was like, okay, I love my girlfriend, but I find Rebecca attractive, and that's what it is at the moment. Very mature, very coherent understanding of things. Um, and then Rebecca's just like the opposite. So it's a good comparison together. And the fact that the show's episode starts off with the two of them and then being told and just seeing how it goes, I think highlights the fact that Rebecca's obviously struggling, you know, with a lot of things emotionally, cognitively that she needs to work through. So yeah.
Because you know what? I feel like I actually didn't think about him this episode. I was like, it's Josh, he's like a Chad, you know? Um, but I have thought about Josh, and I do see him as not only a romantic, not only as a romantic interest, but I also feel like he's also part of the approval committee for Rebecca. So she also takes what he says to heart. I think it's episode 1, if I can remember, but it shows them leaving summer camp in episode 1. And I think they were dating for a little bit, and he said it's not going to work because she's too dramatic. And that opinion or that thought that he had really stuck with her, that she never returned to summer camp after that. And after that, I'm sure she wanted to be in drama or musical theater or something like that, but she became a lawyer. She became the most normal, okay, PC, but mundane, straight path career that her mom probably directed her to take. Um, and so I also feel like she holds his opinion in high regard, um, because of that 10 years ago opinion that he had. And so I think even in this time, she still looks to seek for that validation. Josh himself, I also look at him as quite a morally gray character. And I'm not too sure if it's because I have a partner. And so I look at it from that perspective. How would I feel if he's hanging out with this kind of weird lady that obviously likes him, um, and he finds attractive, and he also knows that what he's doing wouldn't be liked by his girlfriend. I think Greg said it as well. Um, and he continues that. And that's why he sought help, because I feel like eventually the guilt made him reflect a little bit more. I'm not too sure how I feel about the pastor or the priest that he went to. I'm not too sure if we got any sound advice. But it did show that he is capable of reflection, which is great, because if someone's capable of reflection, they're capable of change and progression. So I feel like maybe he will get better in the next episodes. I also do like that he stayed committed to his girlfriend, who he's been with for quite a while. Um, Even if it's just for now, because I'm not too sure what happens later. But it just shows that, he's not as impulsive as the rest of the episodes, because he was able to realize that no, he actually loves his girlfriend, and this is attraction, but I think I'm going to stick to, someone that I love. So it does show that he's not as impulsive as our main character. um yeah, I don't see. Oh, I'm so sorry, I just thought of this now. I don't see Rebecca as necessarily, I know we're not using the terms good or bad, but I don't see her as the one in the wrong necessarily, because she is single. I also look at the situation with Greg, and now I'm looking at it from a different side of the coin, where while you're on a date, you you saw, a partner elsewhere and did something seemingly disrespectful to your date. However, on the same side of the coin, she's single. So it's like you can look at it different different ways.
I don't know. Are you single when you're like on a date with someone else? Zabibu?
I disagree. I think, yeah, she's clearly going through a lot. I think it's either between episode 1 and 4, where she stalks him, right, with Paula.
Hmm. Yes.
They stalk him. She moves to California, where he's at.
Oh,
You know, my
yes.
mind was like, okay, why? She dated
Oh,
him for
you
like
talking
a
about
month.
Josh?
Yes, she
Yeah,
dated
I
him
forgot
for a
about that.
month. A month, and
Yes.
she seems very attached to him. My question was why, because
Oh,
why? And so,
I forgot
which leads me
about
to think,
that.
yeah, which leads me to, and then the fact that she's still sleeping with someone else, claiming though that she likes this person, or maybe she doesn't want to admit it, but and then she's with Greg, but then she's still so focused on this person. My question is why? um and yeah, again, she has no internal standard, so she's trying to, you can see she's trying to latch onto things that she holds, so that sort of have this, like, she's trying to get those things, but in the most terrible way possible. um yeah, she thinks those things hold those things, but like those are not. She needs to find it within herself. So I don't think she likes Josh. I think she has an idea that she's trying to reach, and then therefore she's now, I don't
Mm,
know, obsessing over this dude, unfortunately, and he's entrapped in it
that makes
now.
sense.
But like for a month and then moving to a place, leaving a job where you were on a there's 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 a void somewhere and she's trying to fill it. She's obsessed. I'm sorry, she's an amazing lady. It seems like, but she's obsessed.
I okay.
Jordan, you really don't have to raise your hand. Go ahead.
Okay. I didn't want to disturb. I will say I did forget about the stalking incident and the impulsivity of just moving. Yes. Okay. Maybe it's because I'm such a, I'm a Rebecca apologist because maybe I see my mom in her somewhere there. I'm not too sure. But in episode one, just to give you some context, after 10 years, she woke up feeling a bit, you know, helpless or lost in her job that she's in, and she's up for promotion, and then she sees Josh in New York and he says something like, I've been here for 8 months, but I couldn't make it work. I just want to be home. Everybody's so happy and it's so chilled. And I feel like she hasn't had that in so long that started something in her thought process. Not only that, but Josh said something like this: "Wow, I didn't. If I knew that you would turn out to be so hot and a businesswoman, I clearly lost like a good one." Is kind of what he said. And
And
when
he
you
was
say
still
that to
dating
someone,
Valencia when he said that.
yes, men are trash. Uh, So I feel like, when you speak to someone somewhat mentally unstable and create this other reality for them without having that intention, something clearly happened, and that's why she moved. And I think throughout the show we forget that she actually isn't mentally sound. Maybe that's what happened to me now. I forget that she's going through something, and I'm trying to justify her wrongs and her rights. But you gave me a different perspective, which I forgot about,
But
which we tend
I
to
agree
do.
with you on some level, Jordan, because yes, Greg, I mean, Josh is kind of like the one that got away to her,
Mm,
but at the same time, she was in a very dark place when she bumped into him in New York. And
yeah.
maybe if she'd been happy at her job, maybe if she'd had a boyfriend, if she'd been in a different place in her life, maybe she wouldn't have made the decision to up and leave everything and go to West Covina. But
Mm,
Josh symbolized some kind of freedom and
mm,
peace and fulfillment that she wasn't feeling at that point in time. And she's fixated on him partly because she still doesn't see his flaws. She's just got this one dimensional view of him that she had when she was 16. And
yeah.
two, she doesn't want to let go of this fantasy of him because it also includes happiness and fulfillment, and it symbolizes so much to her. So it's not just about Josh, it's about this feeling that she's going to have when she's with Josh, um, I think.
Yeah.
But then
I see.
um, Zabibu, yeah, I wanted to ask you what you thought about Father Brah. Um, and I don't know, like, yeah, Josh did some reflecting, um, but as Father Brah said to him, yeah, two things are a lot for one brain. So poor Josh, he thought very, very hard. Um, so, Zabibu, I want to ask you what you thought about Father Brown, and then I want to hear from both of you what you thought about. Okay, Josh is able to hold these two things. He's attracted to Rebecca, but he loves Valencia. But he's still going to tell Rebecca that he's attracted to her. What did you think about that decision? So, Zabibu, over to you.
Um, okay, Father Bra. I think I like that they didn't make him too like traditional. He was much younger, more um more younger in his approach. He wasn't condemning, and he was really inviting. I think he was a good uh, image of why that whole interaction was a good image of why we need like counsel to help us process things without it being too I want to say too overwhelming, like without it, it might have been too much to have like an actual too serious to have an actual therapist. Why not go with your bra dude who is a pastor and he can like play basketball and like just talk about something and help you process something, but bring to attention why it is important to think through things and have someone to think through. So I really like that interaction, and I didn't like it that it was too like too serious or um, overwhelming. I was surprised though that Father Brah encouraged him. Well, he didn't really say, "Okay, go and tell Rebecca," but he sort of, gave him room to say, "Okay, well, now that you've come to this conclusion, what will you do with it?" Which led then Josh to go ahead and do it. Um, I believe that we need to be in tune with ourselves, which is why I think it was okay. Like that interaction was fine, and also just Josh going to tell Rebecca. I think things kept inside tend to eventually boil over and spill into some other things, and you trying to they release in an unhealthy way. So it's good that he did tell Rebecca. What it will now lead to is you know what we will begin to see. But I think um, he has to tell Valencia. I don't know if he does or whatever, but he has to tell her. It's not fair to tell one person and then keep it from the other person. But yeah, I didn't think a problem of it. I commend just the fact that he was transparent with himself and he had someone to hold him accountable, and then he did tell so that it's not something that he is just letting build up within him. Because I found it odd. Some of the things on his list was that he saw a mannequin and he wanted to have sex with it. He saw another mannequin and wanted to have sex with the both of them. He saw a lady and wanted to watch the lady to have sex. I was like, dude, Joe. But yeah, so yeah, if he doesn't say, he might end up. I don't know how it would unfold, but like I commend the transparency and being in tune with himself. I just what happens now is what happens with Belench, and whether then I don't know, maybe make a judgment whether he's a good person or not as well. So yeah.
Um, I don't think I had a problem with Father Brah's interaction with Josh either. I feel like it was unique because, in series usually or movies, it's more of a traditional pastor. And maybe that's what I was used to. But I found it kind of contrasting between like what genuine, sincereness looks like versus um, performative goodness. For example, wanting to do good deeds in order to be a good person versus being a good person and giving sound advice without judgment or criticism to his friend or someone who sought um, his help. So I found like it was kind of like he has a very quiet presence, which I found calming in the episode that was so drama filled. So that's my opinion of that situation. And then I second Zabibu's opinion on, sometimes when you hold things in, it festers and becomes bigger. But then I think I'll go the opposite route and also say that when you say something out loud, it becomes a reality. Not only your reality, but then the person you're saying it to. And like like we saw at the end of the episode, she didn't even hear anything past that. And that's never the person's fault or person's intention that's saying it to, for example, Josh. But I don't feel like him saying it was necessary. I feel like a clear boundary should have been stated. For example, look, I don't think we should hang out as closely as we have. I am in a committed relationship and I really do love my girlfriend. You're great, you're fantastic, but I feel like I want to cherish my relationship. And I feel like that would have been a clear boundary and that would have been fine. Instead, he pulled in New York and was like, yeah, you're attractive, I'm attracted to you. Now what's she gonna do? She's already in the place that he's in, but I'm scared for the next episode.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it was unnecessary for him to tell her just because surely I don't know. Do you think that he would be aware that she has feelings for him? Because if he does, then surely this is just going to lead her on and encourage her romantic attraction towards him. Um, and you're right, he didn't set a boundary. And maybe if he had to tell her, then he could have been like, started with, I love Valencia and I'm staying with Valencia, but I just wanted to let you know I have feelings for you too.
Oh, so you did ask whether you feel like he knows that she has feelings for him,
Yes.
and I
Because
actually
it's
think,
obvious to everyone else around them.
yeah, but I also think he might just be a bit naive to certain things. For example, her moving back. I mean, surely that's a red flag to everyone else, but he seems to be very colorblind in this situation. And I actually felt like Rebecca played it kind of cool around him. Like, I can see why he maybe feels like they just friends, but everyone around them might think otherwise. I also think that it's purposeful naivety. Like uh, when you actively choose to look past certain signs, maybe to make yourself feel a bit better. So I think it's obvious, but to him, maybe in his reality, he's completely oblivious to this fact. So I'm not too sure.
She believes in him in a way that nobody else ever has. And maybe he just doesn't want to lose that feeling. And so that would be a good reason to overlook the dangers of this relationship.
Oh, true. That's true. I mean, similar to Rebecca herself, when he said that this is such a happy place and so laid back. I mean, she completely overlooked her reality to come to his. So I can understand. I mean, I can understand con the contrast.
Yes. I don't know if I've only watched the one episode and then read the 1 to 4 and then watch a couple of videos online. I find Rebecca, and this doesn't have to be like bad in any way, but she's a very self-absorbed person. And so I find that whatever she does, it's within her interest. So I definitely do think that he has to at least trust or know that Rebecca does like him. I think she has been laying it on thick by trying to be around him, saying yes to hanging out with him and things like that. So um, I think he might maybe have a sense. I imagine it like a child. Like if a child goes to a store and you walk past a kiddie section, you will want what is in front of they will want what is in front of them and be like, can I please have that? Because that thing is there and it looks enticing. So I think that's how I see that. If she had not ever come across um you know he hadn't come across her, then perhaps he would never you know have felt that way. But because she's in front of him, I'm sure, like, I think she wanted to go to one part and she dressed really nicely, like something as small as that. If you had seen her, maybe, I don't know, I think he said she has big boobs, I'm sure. I think he said so to Father Brah, I think. And yeah, it's because perhaps she dresses really like to accentuate that and to show that to him, because she does like him. Um, so yeah, I definitely do think that he has. I think he was so sure to be able to tell her because he knew that she would be able to receive it so well. Um, so I think he definitely knows that she knows, and that yeah, she's a bit selfish. So she has been sort of even like encouraging him and trying to help him with the job and things like that. Like yeah, it was with purpose because she likes him.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So now it's time to rate this episode. Josh and I are good people on our 5-point Fanon test for mental health representation in media. It's named after Frantz Fanon, the West Indian psychiatrist, Pan Africanist, and Marxist who developed our understanding of decolonization and the psychopathology of colonization. We are not going to go through each of the scales in depth. I'm going to just explain them quickly, and then we're going to give our overall scores for this episode, just commenting on things that we felt um, stood out. So, firstly, we have the Cooper scale, which asks, are mental health phenomena depicted and named with clarity? Then we have the Hill-Collins scale, which asks, are characters shown as whole people without stereotypes or pathologization? We have the Crenshaw scale, which asks, does the story acknowledge and challenge intersecting systems of power or oppression shaping mental health? We have the Child scale, which asks if it depicts mental health professionals or therapeutic processes, including Indigenous or informal ones, are those represented accurately, responsibly, and thoughtfully? And then the Martin Barros scale, which asks, does the story invite meaningful engagement with ethical issues without reinforcing stigma? So my score for this episode, it's the highest score I've given so far in the series, which is 3.55. I gave it full marks for the Timparo scale. I think, and maybe I was feeling generous today, but I felt like it deals with a lot of ethical issues and it didn't reinforce stigma. Um, I think the lowest score that I gave was on the child scale because it doesn't really depict um, mental health professionals or therapeutic processes, but I did kind of count the sessions with Father Brah as some informal therapeutic process. Um, and so I gave that a zero point 0.3. And then all of the other scales I gave 0.5 because I felt like it dealt with quite a few systems of power and oppression in terms of reflecting on Rebecca's domineering mother, in terms of immigration and homelessness and gender dynamics in the workplace. And yeah, also like the power differential between parents and adults. Um, and like in the case of Daryl and Madison. And then yeah, I didn't feel like there was any pathologization of behavior. And I think where Rebecca names low self esteem, lack of maternal affection, and a genetic predisposition to anxiety and depression, I think that's one of the clearest depictions, or sorry, rather one of the clearest namings of mental health phenomena that we've had so far in the series. Um, I didn't give it a full mark on the Cooper scale because I felt like there was still some room to depict it a bit more clearly. But yeah, who would like to go next?
I can go. Okay. You said that we shouldn't go into full detail, but I'll try to give a overall what my highest and lowest is. So I actually rated this episode a 2.5. I It's quite middling. Um, my highest scale was the Cooper scale. I wrote it down, so if you see me reading, and I gave it a 0.8. Um, I said it was because it gave a um, it clearly names and shows Rebecca's distress, and it doesn't hide the emotional crisis behind vague language. Uh, we can see that she has shame and there's desperation and um, her self destructive nature quite clearly. And so that's why I gave it a higher score. My lowest score was the child scale, and I gave it a 0.2. Um, and it's the weakest area for me because I felt like it doesn't really model good therapeutic care. Um, the support Rebecca gets is very messy and controlling rather than thoughtful or ethical. And I think I gave it a 0.2 because I didn't consider Father Brah as well. I probably would have adjusted it to maybe a zero point 0.3 as well, if I remembered that. Um, so for the Hills Collins scale, I gave it a 0.5. Um, Rebecca's clearly more than a stereotype. She's insecure and she's funny and she's messy. And, this episode still uses heightened comedy. So it doesn't fully settle into a deeply um, human or grounded portrayal, in my opinion. Overall, I said I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 because it does well in making emotional distress visible and at showing how shame and validation shape behavior. But it loses marks because the care is not essentially responsible and the intersectional analysis is limited. Full stop.
Okay. I think mine was quite similar to yours, Aurora. Yeah. So for the Cooper, I gave it a 1. Yeah, they didn't offer any besides her saying, that little part where she explained what was going on with her to the mom. And then for Hill Collins, I also gave it a 1. Yeah, they gave different viewpoints of life worlds with Daryl and Greg and Josh as well. So no stereotyping, which is good. For Crenshaw, a 0.5. I felt like they were more of a backdrop and we didn't get to look at them in detail. Like Paula's, a job moment, and then the immigration, and even Daryl's thing, I think could have sort of been at more detail. I, yeah, I put a 0 for the child's one, although Josh did offer some sort of, therapeutic support. So, yeah, I didn't think it was more comedic, with the bra and very very I don't know. And then the Martin, yeah, very very chill. And then the last one I gave a 1. Uh, yeah, it did a good job by like sort of inviting us to ask if she's really good or bad. And on that note, I remember when doing this last one, I was thinking about the title and like when you sent it, I was like, "Hey, bro, they called the show a crazy." I'm like, "What is that? Why would they name a show like that?" And yeah, often at times, yeah, it is used. People call women a lot crazy just for like some slight, just anything. You say she's crazy, Um, but again, I like that they sort of allow us to sort of challenge that and see in some way. I think towards the end, having looked at some spoilers, you begin to sympathize with Rebecca's situation, and see that it stems from somewhere and she needs to work through it, and there needs to be growth in all of those things. So it does catches people's attention, but it also makes it easy to sensationalize and be like, Okay, and then yeah, but it's sort of very ironic. So I like the sort of play on the title, and it's only if you look at it more deeply will you realize that they are the work that the show is doing is to sort of dismantle all of these like stereotypes that yeah, women are crazy just because of this behavior and that behavior. There's a deeper layer to it. So, yeah, I that last one really, yeah, I gave it a one because I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, in this episode as well, when Madison says to her mom, "Oh, you're with the crazy lady," Rebecca says to her,
I remember that. I was like,
crazy
even
is
the
actually a
child
pejorative
sees.
term. That is, yeah. What is, I wrote it down somewhere, but yeah. Um, she kind of debunks or provides a critique on that is in addition to the critique that's in the theme song. But I think many people have had the reaction that you originally had to it, Zabibu, and I've watched some interviews with Rachel Bloom, and she was like, "Yeah, on second thoughts, like I wish I hadn't called it that because it might have like turned some people off, and we wanted to deconstruct that stereotype and to show what was all the contributing factors that might cause a person to behave in a certain way. Um, but it's, yeah, it sometimes the title can be a bit of a barrier of entry for some people. Thank you both so much for providing your thoughts and your expertise and your ratings. Is there
Mm.
anything you'd like to mention that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, I think everybody listening should just go and watch the show because I am now. It's going to be my new binging show, and as you go
Yeah.
along with the podcast, I'm gonna. I hope you're gonna be unpacking each episode. Yes.
Yes, every
Okay,
episode.
I'm subscribing because I need to, you know, I absolutely love it because just with the title, sorry, I'm gonna be short, but I know myself I wouldn't watch it because I would be like, why is there a show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? I don't want to watch that. But like now I'm seeing that it's intentional. There's a purpose to it. So I really like it so far, and I'm gonna continue just watching it. And I think everybody should because it really does allow you to think about certain things um, differently and at a much deeper level. So thank you so much for introducing it to me. And yeah,
I'm just gonna second what Sabibu said. I'm already a subscriber, but I will be watching more episodes to come. Obviously, it's a really interesting watch, and I think maybe it's because we're in psychology, we can see some things that other people might not, but I feel like you can look at it from a multitude of perspectives. And also I really enjoy the musical element of it. If you enjoy musicals or anything, I think you'd really enjoy this. Fun fact, all these songs were written within a week by the creator, and I just feel like there's such a talent behind this little show. um and it deserves its flowers. And there's a few TikTok sounds that went viral from this. I won't sing it, but it's there.
yeah,
Go find it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Zabibu?
I don't know if Rory, maybe you've said it to your listeners already, but I also saw another fun fact is that it was the lowest rating show for the longest time, but still stayed. I was like,
Yeah.
it's because it had such. Someone said it's because they had a loyal fan base, but I think
Yeah.
also just the storyline was very beautiful, and for those who were able to watch it and hold on to it, they kept it running. So yeah, I think that was very cool just to also discover.
Yeah. I love
Also,
that the
yeah.
network believed in the show so much and like
Mm.
saw the value in it and what it was trying to do. Yeah. Thank you both so much. Would
Oh,
you
this is lovely.
where can listeners go to find out more about you and your work? Do you want to plug anything or your social media, or are
Oh.
you mysterious?
Um, serious for now, but I would love to come back. Maybe if you are doing another, I'll be featuring you. That's my non-mysterious moment. I'll be coming back if everyone allows it. But yeah, so far just within the books and managing. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Um,
Thanks, Zabibu.
Ditto. I'd like to remain the mysterious cute girl on the screen for a little bit. And then maybe if I'm a recurring podcaster, I'll plug.
Absolutely, you'll be here again, both of you. So, what do you say we go and find a sexy mannequin and we name it Long
Yeah,
John Slipper?
love that.
And then maybe we can help each other figure out the Beaver Dam menstrual cup by the
Oh
end of
my
the
Yes,
god,
week.
needed
I would
help. Oh
love to
my
figure that out.
goodness.
I would love to figure that one out. This is so
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome.
Thank you, Aurora.
Thank you for listening to Intersectional Psychology. Intersectional Psychology, we're all so broken inside, is not endorsed by Warner Bros. Television, CBS Television Studios, Lean Machine, Webterfuge, Black Lamb, Rachel Does Stuff, or any of their subsidiaries. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and all names, pictures, audio and video clips are registered trademarks and or copyright of their respective trademark and or copyright holders. Please follow or subscribe to the podcast to get every episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review Intersectional Psychology in your preferred app. It really helps other people find the podcast. This episode of Intersectional Psychology was researched, written, recorded, and edited by me, Aurora Brown. For a transcript of this episode, please see the link in the show notes on your podcast app or go to intersectionalpsychology.com. A video of this episode is available on YouTube with closed captions. To support this podcast and get access to bonus content, including additional episodes and interviews, as well as more guided mindfulness sessions, please go to patreon.com/intersectional psychology. You can also chat with me on Blue Sky at intersectpsych.bsky.social and Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at intersectional psychology. But mostly Blue Sky. Aurora Brown and Intersectional Psychology are committed to the site Black Women Praxis. All episodes of Intersectional Psychology are for educational purposes only and are not intended to be a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I, Aurora Brown, am not able to answer specific health questions about individual situations. Always seek the advice of your health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this podcast. If you think you need immediate assistance, please call your local emergency number or any mental health crisis hotline. Everyone deserves good mental health.